data and providing, I would say, more generally providing support to policymaking to tackle energy poverty. So that's our topic for today, let's say the background. And we will see 4 different experiences. One, the tool, the social watt analyzer, developing the social watt project, and then the experience from France, Belgium, and Italy that provides a good illustration of what can be done to meet the new requirement of this Article 22, and more generally the added value it provides to the understanding of the phenomenon of energy poverty in the country and support to policy making. As usual, you can ask questions along, so don't wait to ask questions. You can ask questions anytime in the chat. If you want to intervene directly in the discussion, you can also raise your hand, but I cannot guarantee that we will have time to invite participants to speak directly. So I encourage you first to ask your question in the chat. Also, this webinar, just for you to know, this webinar is recorded, and the proceedings, like for the first one, will be made available early January, including the recordings, the presentation files, and a short briefing of the meeting, of the webinar. I don't want to delay more the official start of the meeting and the first presentation. So I'm very pleased to introduce first. Well, you have on the agenda you have the 4 speakers of today. So Andriana Stavrakaki, Maud Truta, Sandrine Meyer, and Paola Valbonesi. And I'm very glad to start introducing Andriana Stavrakaki from ICCS, who is also the coordinator of Social Watt, and who will present the tool developed for utilities for energy companies as part of the Social Watt project. Andriana, the floor is yours.
Hi. Hi, good morning. So as Jean-Sébastien said, I'll present Social Watt. So the main aim of Social Watt is to help utilities, energy companies across Europe to develop, implement, and replicate innovative schemes to alleviate energy poverty. So in order to achieve it, within the framework of the project, different decision support tools have been developed for identifying energy poor households, but also for better designing and monitoring schemes of energy efficiency and renewable energy. We've also focused a lot on building the capacity of the stakeholders, so utilities, energy companies, but also other stakeholders like social services and public authorities, to better design and implement schemes to alleviate energy poverty. So in this presentation, I will focus on the Social Watt decision support tools that we've developed, and more specifically Social Watt Analyzer. So the main focus of Social Watt Analyzer is to help utilities and energy companies to identify energy poor citizens, energy poor customers within their customer database. But I think it's also quickly worth mentioning the other tools that we've developed. Because these are also applicable to a bigger audience. So public authorities, local regional authorities, social services, and other stakeholders that are interested in designing and implementing energy efficiency and renewable energy schemes can use them. So this is Social Watt Plan, which aims to evaluate the performance of several mitigation actions. So the user can go and put some targets and constraints and can get back some optimal scenarios of actions, of activities, of energy efficiency measures and renewable energy measures that it can consider implementing, and an assessment of their cost effectiveness. And Social Watt Check, which basically helps the user monitor the effectiveness of any actions it's implementing, so energy efficiency specific actions. So moving on to Social Watt Analyzer, as I mentioned initially, it relies on utility-based data. It also uses open source data. It considers different energy poverty indicators, and it provides the results in 2 different formats that I'll explain later in the presentation. So this is the overall framework of Social Watt Analyzer. So the user needs to identify its own data and the data types and format it has within, for example, its customer database, so energy consumption per customer, and so on, and also identify any other national, regional, local data that is relevant. Import the data, select the energy poverty indicators that the user is interested in using, and run the model. The first step, I'll go through the presentation step by step. So the first step is to identify the country of origin. The main reason for this is that one of the indicators that we've incorporated in the model relies on country-specific data on households in order to calculate the energy needs, the theoretical energy needs of households. Then the data process method needs to be selected. So most of the data process methods were developed for the utilities that have used the model within the framework of Social VAT, but we've also incorporated additional data process methods so that any utility, any company that holds energy data can use the model and select the appropriate method to do that. And then we've incorporated different energy poverty indicators that the user can go and select. So we've incorporated some of the commonly used across Europe indicators. So the 10% indicator, the low income, high cost indicator, the high share of energy expenditure indicator, the low absolute energy expenditure indicator, and arrears on utility bills. What we've noticed is that the model works better with indicators that do not rely on income. So, for example, the low absolute energy expenditure indicator and the arrears on utility bills. So that's why we've also developed our own indicator, which is the social VAT indicator that basically estimates the energy theoretically required by each household and compares that with the actual energy consumption to identify whether that household is energy poor. And when the energy consumption is not actually lower than the theoretically required for maintaining thermal comfort, then the energy costs and income ratio is used to as a second step of the assessment. So the third step is to actually go and include information and data about the indicators that have been selected. So, for example, thresholds for each indicator, national income or national poverty line in the country. And then the last step is to actually import the data. So import the energy data that the user holds, and also import any income data that the user holds. And we've included the functionality of being able to include local and regional data so that the analysis is better. But unfortunately, most of the utilities do not have income data at household level to import and use. So this is how the results are presented after the model is run. So the model comes back with statistical results about, for example, at a national level, what's the percentage of energy poor households within the customer database of the user? What's the percentage of the households that are at risk of energy poverty? And then it breaks it down in different categories. For example, what's the percentage of energy poor households in each municipality, or per different types of buildings, or per different types of floor areas, and so on, depending on the data that the user has also imported. And finally, the results also include detailed results per household. So, for example, the user is able to identify whether a customer is energy poor, and also not only for the year under consideration, but for the previous years as well, and have a detailed assessment per household level. So you can find more information for all three of the tools, Social VAT Analyzer, Plan, and Check, in our website, along with instructions of how to download them and install them. And we've developed 2 reports to help users as well use them. So the first one has more about the technical characteristics of the tools and the considerations within the tool process development and the underlying process of the tools. And the second one is more of a guidebook, guidelines on how to use the tool. So it has step-by-step instructions for users for using the tool. So yeah, and this is our contact details. So please feel free to contact us, and we can also support you in the use of these tools. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Adriana. So I just put in the chat the link to the tool. So if you want to have a look at it. Maybe just to clarify, it's an open access, right, tool, so everyone can download it and use it. And maybe my first question here, and also I invite participants to ask questions in the chat if you want, would be about the experience of SocialWatt as you had utilities from different countries. So did you see major differences in the let's say the data access or the regulation also on data privacy and data use, the way to implement GDPR, for example?
Yes, one of the first issues that we had to deal with was GDPR, and developing basically a tool that's in full compliance with GDPR. And this was particularly important for SocialWatt Analyzer that uses customer data. So that's why we decided to develop a tool that's not online, so it's not an online tool, it's a downloadable tool, so the user downloads it within its PC network or company network and uses its internal data. So that kind of helped in dealing with the problem in most cases. But then another problem was about the use of the data. So actually utilities using that data to undertake this analysis and then specifically targeting and reaching these energy poor households. So this is an element that a couple of partners had to deal with during the project implementation and make sure GDPR compliance when approaching customers and doing the analysis, basically. But yeah, it was a main consideration throughout the process.
And the main user that are okay for this tool is energy companies, right?
So yes, so that's the big difference also with the other two tools that can be used by anyone that basically wants to design a scheme for energy poverty alleviation. So this is particularly focused on energy companies and utilities and the sources they have, the data they have, and this is actually one of an important lesson learned from our side that we want to communicate more broadly is that utilities do have access in this data, and utilities in general have an open, let's say, communication channel with customers, and they and so working with them, collaborating with them on energy poverty alleviation schemes has added value, has benefits overall because of these two factors.
Thanks, Adriana, and that's very good that you raised this point about why energy companies can be a relevant stakeholder, let's say, for developing, to identify households at risk of energy poverty and or to develop schemes to tackle energy poverty. That will be, I take the opportunity to also inform the participant that there will be a last webinar of the series in January, on the 11th of January. We will put the link in the chat where you can register, and this last webinar will be to discuss this topic, so of who is best placed to develop and implement energy efficiency scheme to tackle energy poverty, and we will have speakers representing the different views, so energy companies, NGOs, National Energy Agency, and also local authorities and also let's say citizen-led initiatives. So that's that will be another interesting topic. But today we focus more on what we can do in terms of analysis and how it informs action to tackle energy poverty. Thanks a lot, Adriana. And now we move from, let's say, the perspective of supporting energy companies to more the support to policy making as such. And we'll start with the experience from France, with, as far as I know, the oldest observatory in Europe. So the French National Observatory on Energy Poverty, ONPE. And I'm very pleased to introduce Maud Truta, who is a project manager for the observatory at ADEME, the French Agency for the Ecological Transition. Maud, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jean-Sébastien. And thank you also for giving me the opportunity to present the French Observatory. I wanted to start my presentation by letting you know that fuel poverty has a legal definition since this has been established in the law called Grenelle II in 2010 that stated that people suffer from fuel poverty in their dwelling if they face specific difficulties to access the necessary energy to the satisfaction of their needs, basic needs, due to the inadequacy of their resources or the features of their dwelling. And this law was also important because it allowed the creation of the National Observatory in March 2011. And the first work period gathered partners through a 3-year agreement, so 2012 and 2015. And partners are renewing their involvements since that date. And we are now starting the 4th period as we signed the first partnership agreement in September this year. And I just put in red on that slide the date of our symposium, because every 2 or 3 years we are trying to gather all the actors, all the national actors working on fuel poverty to discuss the topic and draw together some action plans. So just to let you know about our governance, so the observatory presidency is held by the president of the Ecological Transition Agency, so Patrick Lavarde, but just for a few times because we are waiting for a new nomination in January. The observatory has a strategic committee which is gathering 11 funding partners, and this committee is in charge of the strategic orientations, the work program, and the budget validation, and they gather from one time per year. And we also have a partners committee that is gathering the whole partners of the observatory. So we have 30 partners. And this committee is more in charge of the works quality and the follow-up of the studies and other works we are carrying out. And the partners are working within 5 thematic working groups. So we have one working group dedicated to households that is carrying out qualitative studies. Another working group dedicated to data with more quantitative studies. Another working group on territorial diagnosis. I will let you know more about the works we are carrying out within this group just after. And we also have a working group dedicated to communication in order to better disseminate and promote all the studies we are publishing. And we just launched a new working group on condominiums in order to figure out how to tackle fuel poverty within condominiums on urban areas. And I wanted also to mention, even if it ended in 2021, the working group dedicated to Europe that I will also present just after the works we did within this group. Just to finish on the governance, we have a dedicated project team in charge of the secretariat. So we are now 3, 1 project manager, myself as a project officer, and a communication officer since a few weeks. And as a budget, it's around 900,000 for the 3 years partnership agreement. So here you have an overview of the 30 partners working within the observatory. So as you can see, the partners are coming from several horizons. So we have some ministers, some public agencies, public operators, NGOs, energy service providers, and also distributors, as well as national networks. So this is really interesting to make all these different actors work together to tackle fuel poverty. Just to let you know also about our missions and principles. So we have 3 main principles that partners have to agree while entering the observatory. And these principles are the neutrality, the continuity, and the reliability. And we have 3 main missions. The first one is to observe the phenomenon of fuel poverty and analyze the related public policies. The second one is to serve as a platform for exchanges between stakeholders and contribute to public debate on fuel poverty. And the third one is to disseminate and promote our works and the works of our partners on fuel poverty. Here you have an overview of some, but not all, the publications and tools we are doing at the observatory. So these publications and tools are both dedicated to public actors, but also to local operators. Sorry. Yes. So I will not go through all of them, but I just wanted to point out some of them. So the dashboard, I will speak about it right after. But maybe the longitudinal survey, which is our latest publication. So this was a study that ensured the follow-up of 30 fuel poverty households during 1 year in order to identify breaks and levers to the release of fuel poverty. It was really interesting because it was a cross-analysis between their life path. So, for instance, a loss of a job, a disease, a breakup, or even a move, their fuel poverty path, and I don't know how to say in English, but the support, their accompaniment path. Let me know if it's not clear. But the idea was to see the consequences of one path on the other. So this study was really interesting, and we are now working on the continuity of that study to identify the file path and the optimization that can be reached from a sociological and ergonomical perspectives. So if it's not clear, please let me know. I can develop a bit more, but this is the kind of study we can produce. I can also talk about the daily fuel poverty publication, which is a thematic multimedia publication which illustrates the different facets of fuel poverty with quotations from households and pictures from a photographer. And this kind of publication is very useful for local actors, as they sometimes need to illustrate their awareness campaign or to when they work with their local collectivity to have some témoignages. Sorry, I don't have the. Oh, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to let you know that this kind of a publication is quite useful for local actor, as well as the technical sheets that are available on our website and that are describing the main aids available. We are trying to update these technical sheets according to news and laws, etc. Because in France we have many aids and they are evolving very soon, not very soon, very frequently. So this is so now we have 27 of them, and they are a key tool for local actors in order for them to be aware of the evolution just by a click on our website. I would like also to let you know about GeoDeep, which is a tool that is dedicated to territorial actors. Actors can access this tool freely. And it has been developed within the Territorial Diagnosis Working Group, thanks to the crossing of several databases coming from mainly public statistics. So the actors can download a report with key data enabling a pre-diagnosis to identify fuel poverty situation and areas on territories. And it goes from a national scale to a neighborhood scale. And this is a tool that is very much used by local actors. For instance, we have, so it has been launched in May 2021, and we still have 4 to 5 demands for license per day. And since the launching, so in 2021, we have around 2,400 users in total. And so mainly territorial collectivity, if they want to launch a new program or yes, a new program, they mainly use this tool to have some data to start with. And sorry, it's a bit of a catalog, but we are doing so many different types of things. So I just wanted for you to have an overview of what we are doing at the observatory. And I can talk about the European benchmark that we did in 2021. So we produced 10 European country fact sheets and one at the European level in order to describe the situation of energy poverty in these 10 countries and the main measures implemented. And we tried to make these fact sheets available through an interactive map in our website. And I will end this slide on that point, is that we have a website where can be found, but mostly in French, every publication. So the synthesis, study reports, practical guide, or even to access to our tool GeoDeep. And we also put some news on fuel poverty. Here I go, and just if I if I have some more time, I wanted to present you our dashboard, which is our main publication, as we are publishing it 2 times per year. It's elaborated thanks to data from the national statistics and from our partners. And this dashboard is composed of indicators that we are following from 1 year to the other in order to quantify and qualify the phenomenon in France, to monitor the factors and the impacts on the households, and to monitor also the impact of the public policies. I will not go inside the details of the figures, but you will access my presentation after. So these are our main figures about fuel poverty situation in France at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maud. I think that's quite impressive what all the French Observatory has developed. And you showed that, okay, having experience and time to you mentioned continuity several times. I think that's very important to the fact that it was a continuous effort now for more than 10 years, we see the output and from what all what you presented. And when I noted one very interesting thing that you mentioned about the daily content, I mean the daily portrait, because yes, directly we will, when we think about observatories, we will think about data, graphs, indicators, tools, etc. But as you said, also providing visuals, I mean, a very practical way to visualize or to illustrate what energy poverty can be super useful. And I think what you highlighted in your presentation is indeed very, very interesting. As I said, you have, I mean, the French observatory is now running for more than 10 years. So it gives you some, let's say, some way to stand back and look at how things are evolved. So did you see some changes in the attention that policymakers or media journalists are paying to energy poverty? So I don't know, do you receive more requests or questions from journalists or from the ministries or other policymakers?
Yes, thank you for this question, which is even more interesting because last year was the 10th anniversary of the observatory creation, as well as of the law Grenelle 2 that I mentioned. And so for the occasion, we carried out a retrospective study of 10 years of policies to tackle fuel poverty in order to monitor the impacts of these policies and also to draw some perspectives. And so I will not detail all the conclusion of that study, but it really shows three main periods. So from 2010 to 2014-15, the emergence of fuel poverty as a national concern, let's say. With the law, with the launching of big programs like, for those who know, Living Better Serenity by the Housing National Agency, for instance. Then it highlights a second period from 2015 to 2017, when fuel poverty was more seen as an issue of energy transition. For instance, there was the addiction of a law on energy transition for green growth in 2015, and energy was set as a right for all. And then the last period is since 2018, where there is a real strategy from the government for massive renovation. With, for instance, lately the new brand France Rénove, which means France is renovating, which is a kind of umbrella brand with several programs below. I don't know if I'm clear, but you can ask me after. And so, yes, so this is the main policy right now, even if the current energy crisis led the government to set up several emergency measures to contain the impact of the energy crisis. But what I wanted to say, is that even if there was this evolution, there is still not a clear plan at the national level to a national policy dedicated specifically to energy poverty. And so after this very interesting retrospective study, all the observatory members decided to write a collective statement to ask the government for this national plan to tackle energy poverty. And the housing minister of at that period, so it was in November 2021, for our latest symposium, she answered that the government will work on it. And since very lately, we have a lot of demand from interministerial task force that are taking the subject to work on that national plan. So we hope that in 2023, maybe there will be this plan. I don't know if I answer. I just wanted also to say that concerning the media, we have a lot of they are asking a lot for interventions or interviews. Sorry. And actors in France decided last year, actors on energy poverty, decided last year to organize every year a day dedicated to energy poverty. So the first edition was in 2001 and the second in November 2022. It was 3 weeks ago. And so it's a collective awareness campaign about energy poverty, actors, issues, who are the households, the impact of the policy measures, etc. And so this initiative really enabled the topic to be known by everyone.
Thanks a lot, Maud. I think that's very interesting, and especially what you mentioned about the proposal made by the members of the observatory for a kind of strategy. I mean, having a more or plan or something more structural, let's say, apart from having separate measures or measures that are not clearly identified for energy poverty. And the day, also the National Day on Energy Poverty, maybe you know that at the end of February, since last year, there is also an International Energy Poverty Action Week. So I think this year it will be the week around the 20th of February. If someone has the link, you can put it in the chat. I think it has been recently announced. But that's also good to see that similar initiatives occur at national level. Thanks a lot, Maud. I always keep encouraging participants to make comments or ask questions in the chat. You can see that there was one to Adriana, and Adriana already replied directly in the chat, so you can have a look to this discussion. Now we will move to Belgium. We continue a quick round of Western Europe and the national observatories. And this time that's not exactly an observatory per se, but that's something very similar that combines a barometer and a platform. And I'm very pleased to welcome Sandrine Meyer from the Université Libre de Bruxelles, Free University of Brussels, to present the Belgian experience on that. Sandrine, the floor is yours.
Many thanks, Jean-Sébastien, for the invitation. So my name is Sandrine Meyer. I'm working at Free University of Brussels, and I will present you the Belgian experience around energy poverty, and specifically the Belgian platform against energy poverty and more recently water poverty, and the main tool used to support the actions in the barometer. So the whole story began in 2011 with the global study on energy poverty in Belgium. So the study was carried out by the University of Antwerp and the Free University of Brussels, but it involves also several Belgian stakeholders from different horizons, but all of them having direct or indirect link with energy poverty. The main result of this research are specified on the screen. So even though there are no legal definition of energy poverty, we reach a consensus within the research project around the concept of what energy poverty is according to us. So energy poverty refers to a situation where a person or household faces particular difficulties to satisfy his or her basic energy needs in his or her dwelling. So we purposely avoid to speak about mobility, even though they are linked with energy poverty too. But given the fact that policy measures and levelers are quite different, we decided to focus on dwellings. We recognize that energy poverty is a complex issue, and it's transversal and multifaceted, but also dynamic, that there are different drivers. Main known are income, energy consumption related to housing quality or behavior, but also climate. And if energy prices are important, but there are also different other potential factors related to personal situation, health problem, administrative problem, and so on. So the drivers are really large. We recognize also that existing administrative data were not sufficient to encompass the whole issue. So it was necessary to develop several indicators. One single indicator was not enough to encompass the different situation. And given the fact that existing administrative data were not sufficient, we decided to set up our own indicator in a barometer. It was also difficult to have a global overview on the issue of energy poverty in our federal country, because the competencies are highly split between the different levels of power, but also between different kind of administration actors, such as energy suppliers or distributors. And so we decided to suggest the creation of a national platform in order to be able to discuss this issue with the different stakeholders. So the King Baudouin Foundation decided to set up this kind of platform against energy poverty in 2014. So there are a large panel of members in this platform. It is composed by a different kind of administration from different competencies and different level of power, so national or regional. There are energy or even though water suppliers, distributors and regulators, different kind of association, NGOs and so on, academics, social housing companies and so on, public center for social action. These are really important regarding the social measures for energy. The platform decided to develop the quantitative tool, the barometer, in order to better understand the different energy poverty situation, to highlight vulnerabilities among the household, and to highlight the interaction transversalities, for example, between energy poverty, housing condition, income level, and so on. The barometer was important to assess the importance of the issue, so to be able to quantify it. And it's also complementary to the qualitative feedbacks from the field, so from association, organization, or other actors such as energy suppliers and so on. And the tool was also needed to support common activities within the platform. So the platform is set up by the King Baudouin Foundation, and there is a specific budget dedicated to the functioning of the platform, to the setup of the barometer and its update yearly, and also to develop the different common activities with the different members of the platform. So to have a look at the energy poverty barometers, it contains different kinds of indicators. There are context indicators such as climate evolution, revenues, housing cost evolution, energy price, and so on, to understand the evolution during the certain period. We developed 3 families of energy poverty indicator. So one related to what we call measured energy poverty, and relate to the fact that the household has a too high energy bill compared to the average or to the mean. There are two kind of indicator: extent, for number of percentage of households that are in this kind of energy poverty situation, but also the depth. It's also the gravity of the situation of this household. There is another kind of family of indicator family. It's related to the fact that some households may restrain their consumption under their basic needs in order to avoid to pay a too high energy bill. So we try to find a way to measure the number and the gravity of this specific energy poverty situation. And the third family of indicator is only perceived energy poverty. Is related to the fact the personal declaration of the households that is not able to heat the dwelling correctly. There are different pros and cons of this kind of indicators. First of all, it's based on the microdata of the Silk survey. So it gives us the possibility to cross different kinds of data, such as revenue, and the fact that, for example, the household is a renter or a tenant or homeowner. So we developed these synthetic indicators, and it was possible to identify the more vulnerable groups. It gave us also the possibility to make a regional comparison, but there are also different drawbacks with this kind of indicators. The Silk survey is a small example, so a small sample, so it's not easy to cross too many data to have sufficient representativity. There is a delay of more or less 1.5 years between the fact that we received the new data and the current situation of energy poverty. There are sometimes changes in the collection methodology of the microdata, and it's quite difficult to target households. We are able to highlight the vulnerabilities and the vulnerable groups, but not to target households as such. We also add some administrative data, and the main advantage is that there is a short or no delay compared to the current situation. And we also add some comparison with the suggested energy poverty indicator from the EPOF in order to be able to compare with other European countries. These are the highlights of the last barometer we made. So more than one households on more than 21 households in Belgium are hit, but one or two kinds of energy poverty situation. There are different kinds of vulnerable households, like single parent families, single person households, and especially old women. Renters are much more vulnerable to energy poverty than homeowners. However, within the group of homeowners, we have the older homeowners that are more vulnerable to energy poverty than the other one. Lower income households are quite vulnerable, and there is a great link between monetary poverty and energy poverty, but there is no overlap. So we found that there are different kinds of households that face energy poverty situation, but are not monetary poor for as such. One of the great highlight of the barometers too is that there exists a different great disparity of situation beyond a mean or median value. This is because energy vectors are not the same for all households, so the related costs are quite different too, and also because the associated social measures depend on the energy vector used by the household. And for example, we have the social tariff for gas or electricity, but there is no such social tariff for heating oil or wood, for example. So the platform has also the objective of developing common activities with the different stakeholders of the platform. And this slide gives you an examples of what kind of activities were made these last years. So the activities have all of them have its own work group, and the work group could could ask for a specific study, for example, that or could have different discussions in order to make recommendations. And the platform present this recommendation to the administration, to the politics, and try to influence and to improve the situation according to the topic studied by the work group. And for example, there was a specific work group dedicated to the simplification of the energy bill. There were different recommendations supported by the platform. And now, recently, legal text adopted this recommendation and is now mandatory for the energy suppliers to follow these simplification rules. I give you different examples here. I'm not going through each of them because there are a lot of one, but the link are always related to the web page where you can find the related publication and explanation. So I will leave you here with some references. So you can have a look at the last barometers published by the King Baudouin Foundation. You have the link to for the platform and the different work group for the dedicated activities. The third link here is related to scientific articles explaining the different indicators we developed specifically for the barometers. And this is the research report where we have the main conclusion that led to the platform and barometer setup in Belgium.
Thanks a lot, Sandrine. I've put in the chat the link there. There is also an English page on the barometer, so I put that link in the chat. Unfortunately, we are a bit behind in the schedule, so I will skip the question and come back to you after the final presentation. So we now move to Italy, and I'm very pleased to introduce Professor Paola Valbonesi from the Padova University, who is also the chair of the independent Italian Energy Observatory, the OIPE. Paola, the floor is yours.
Okay, so thank you very much, Jean-Sébastien, and thank you all for attending this this meeting. So in my 10 minutes, I will 10-15 minutes, I will share some information about the Italian Energy Poverty Observatory, and just the most relevant information, I would say, but I don't know why it is not moving down. I cannot move my slide. I don't know why. So
you can use the
Yes.
arrows. Yes.
Okay, yes, I did. So this is an independent observatory, and it has been established in February 2019 by Ivan Faiella, Luciano Lavecchia, Raffaele Miniaci, and myself. And my colleagues are now also connected in these meetings, and it is hosted at the University of Padua in the Center Giorgio Levi Casas for Energy Economics and Technology. It is a network, so an informal network. Now we are 63 members from universities, research institutions, NGO, and operators in the energy sectors. And our aims since the very beginning were to organize and disseminate information on energy poverty. First, looking at its definition and focusing on data collection to measure it and to have annual estimation. And the second part is also to organize and disseminate information about best practices adopted to fight energy poverty, and also the evaluation of policies to fight this relevant phenomena. And in so doing, we organize seminars and conference to present investigation on energy poverty. And we also foster networking on national and international experts. And again, in the aim to develop new studies on energy poverty. We also stimulate teamwork among all the members in this observatory. And we aim or we want to interact with the European Observatory and also with all the other institutions which share with the similar aim. And just to give you the flavor about what we do, I just present very shortly our 3 reports. So we started with a very simple report in 2019 in which we addressed the measure of energy poverty, and in the second part we addressed the different policies to fight this phenomena. And in 2021 we develop along the 2 main lines, again, measure and policies. And we collected 23, so we collected a contribution from 23 authors, members of the observatory, having specific focus, obviously mainly related to the Italian situation. And actually, we are working on the 3rd report, which is a work in progress. And apart from providing the latest national and regional estimation on the phenomena, we are working to focus on energy poverty and immigrants, energy poverty and household composition, and energy poverty and social housing, because we understood that those are topics which deserve attention for addressing the issue. Now, in the rest of my short presentation, I will present some example about how we work, first in measuring energy poverty, and then in addressing policy evaluation. So here you have how we assess energy poverty in Italy. This is an unofficial measure which went proposed by Faiella and Lavecchia in 2015. And it has been also adopted in some Italian official documents. quite recently. And I don't want to enter in details, but as similarly to what presented for the Belgian experience, this measure mainly addresses two parts or two groups of households: those which have low expenditure and high cost, and those households which are in a condition of hidden energy poverty. And using this kind of measure on Italian data, we do have this figure, which is about the estimation of the measure from 1997 to the recent measurement in 2021, because as already mentioned, we have a delay in receiving data to estimate the measure. So and as you can see, we had a peak in 2018 and then a slowdown in the COVID year. But to interpret that period, so the COVID period is a little bit difficult, because the lockdown somehow increased the energy consumption at home, but at the same time we had low prices or lower prices, lower energy prices, and also mild weather condition. Now, what is relevant is that in 2021, the energy poverty, the household in energy poverty corresponded to 2.2 million household, and they amount for 8.5% over the total Italian household. So it is this is the result of the measure. And if we move to disaggregate the measure in by area, so by different geographical area, type of town, we can see that there is a large heterogeneity, having a larger percentage of energy poverty in the south of Italy and the highland, and in a small town. And here you have in the different bar the changes according to the period from 2007 to 2021, so different years. Again, here, having a look to the 20 regions, which is in Italy, you can see that the percentage of energy poverty household is very different, from 4.6 in Marche to 16.7 in Calabria. So this heterogeneity, it is not only by region, but even within the same region here, without entering too much in details, but having a look to the different color in Lombardy, so the picture on the right, you can see that in the same region there are very different area with different records for energy poverty. And actually we are working exactly in this on this regional measurement on energy poverty, and we exploit, in doing this, we exploit detailed information on degrees temperature and in building efficiency in the different small areas. And this is in the aim to address where policies could be to fight energy poverty could be more effective. Now, just a few words about tools to fight energy poverty in Italy, and how the OIPE addressed research in this respect. So, considering what we have in Italy as an instrument to fight energy poverty, which is bonus gas and bonus elettrico. These are a sort of social bonuses which are not related to consumption and housing condition, but they are given accordingly to a measure which is an equivalized household income and wealth. And since 2021, we got that these two kinds of bonuses went in a sort of automatic eligibility. And the result is that they are really a very costly policies. And in previous work we had on these bonuses, we got results that most of monies went not to household in energy poverty, and a large part of a household in energy poverty didn't get the bonuses. So we are willing to work again on these bonuses because we think that this kind of policy needs to be better investigated and in particular better targeted. A second example of policy which is addressing energy poverty in Italy is what is called Ecobonus, and it is a measure which went at work since 2006 as a tax deduction, but since 2020 we had let's say a new form of this bonus. And some analysis, it is again a very costly policy, and some in spite of the few data there are on this policy, some members of the observatory had an investigation, and they stressed that this kind of measure should be promoted, so should be designed in a different way, in particular to address greater equity in its use. And this is because it seems that the largest part of this tax advantage went to the richest part of the population. And finally, the last example I want to give you is referring to the policies, so the temporary intervention that we had in many European countries in the recent period 2021-2022 with the large energy price increase. And in Italy, Italy is the seventh country by delivering resources through this intervention. And a very recent analysis by other members of the observatory tried through a micro simulation on data on Italy, tried to evaluate the benefit from this temporary and generally policy intervention. And as you can see in the table, there is the column which addresses the increase in prices, energy prices, so electricity and heating, with mitigation, so with this intervention, and without mitigation, so a counterfactual. And you have in the first part, you can see that prices had recorded a lower increase with the mitigation. Then you can see that the demand reduction went lower with the intervention, and finally that we record according to this analysis a lower increase in expenditure with in presence of this mitigation. But all this analysis also stressed that all these important and beneficial effects went with a different sizes with respect to the income distribution of the population. And just in the two graphs at the bottom, in the bottom of the slides, you can see that bars are very different according to the expenditure quantile. So this suggests that even this measure, so this temporary intervention should be addressed, could be better addressed if they want to fight energy poverty. So just to move to conclusion, OIPE has contributed to in measuring energy poverty in Italy, and also in evaluating some policies to fight it. I just provide you with some example. If we should wrap up, we can say that energy poverty is a significant phenomenon in Italy, and policies to fight it should be more effective. In particular, we had temporary measures which somehow they have protected household in general, but they could be more targeted to vulnerable household, and moreover they were really very expensive. And the last point is that we really need to better target medium and long run policies, also by developing analysis in terms of policy evaluation ex ante and ex post. And all the work we did, so the analysis we run, can be downloaded on the OIPE website. And I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Paola. I think that was also very interesting to get this overview of what has been done with the Italian observatory. And one thing that I note, and that will nicely also lead us to the final discussion, is that some of this analysis also provided input to at least to challenge, let's say, the current policies, and maybe even further to get a first step in their improvement. And that's actually the topic I would like to raise for the final discussion. If all of you can stay 5 minutes more, I would say, if possible, to discuss briefly how you see the link between analysis and action and policies. So we have seen from all the examples presented this morning that there have been, I would say, a major improvement in the knowledge, data collection, data analysis on energy poverty. And did you see the same move, or let's say the same progress, when coming from analysis to action? And I suggest we will go from the reverse way of the presentation. So I will start with Paola's and Sandrine and so on. So Paola, if you want to start on that.
Yes, just a short answer. Yes, you're right that we had some improvement on in investigating the phenomena, and also there are many activities to fight it, many policies. What we really need is to have better data to improve even further our investigation, and moreover to be able to have ex ante and ex post policy evaluation, because to have a effectiveness in fighting this issue, we need to understand very well what to do. And second, I would also say that since it is a multidimensional phenomena, we need to explore more. So it is really relevant to understand the different sources, and also to address carefully the issue given the different sources. So to have best practices in many fields, just to to have good results very soon, because this is the issue. Also, the timing is really relevant. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks a lot, Paola. So I note, okay, the point on ex post evaluation, I can not agree more. We are pushing for that also in other projects. And yes, definitely, I understand your last point about multidimensional as a call for multidisciplinary approaches to look at the process and that at the phenomenon, sorry, and that's what we actually see, yes, indeed, in all the observatories and the more and more studies coming on this topic. Sandrine, also, if you want to answer on that, and I will join attached to that the other point that is a bit specific to Belgium, that you look jointly to energy and water since 2020, as you mentioned in your presentation. So do you see the same, the link between analysis and actions, and in your case also the synergy between looking at the same time to energy poverty and water poverty?
So yes, there is a great improvement also in the awareness of the different stakeholders around the situation, the fact that there are different situations and not only a problem of too high energy bill, but also that there are people without any energy in their house or having very few energy. But I think that there is a great highlight with the link between housing conditions and housing quality and energy poverty, and it's quite important with the different strategies to renovate the buildings efficiently. And we put the accent on the fact that energy efficiency is one of the answer to energy poverty, but be careful with the fact that housing has to be affordable too. So we are trying to link the affordability of a good housing condition and the fact that energy poverty has to be tackled. So, and it's why also water poverty is made part of the story, because it's also related to the housing condition, housing quality, and the fact that renters have more often less quality housing than homeowners.
Thanks a lot, Sandrine, and thanks for raising this issue of affordability. That was also one of the key messages we got from the first webinar from the NGOs who are working in this field, that okay, there is then a risk of exclusion once the dwelling is renovated. And now coming back to France, Maud.
Yes. I quite agree with what have said Paola about the data and also the need to have a more to have the national studies on a more frequent basis in order to update our tools so that the figures we are talking about are more precise with the current situation, because sometimes, and especially maybe in France, you have a national data on national survey, and then we have to modelize. I don't know, modéliser en anglais.
Modeling.
Yeah,
Model.
to model the data. So this is not really representative of the real situation. So if we have some national survey on a more frequent basis, maybe we can be more accurate. That's what I want to say. And this is the first point. And my second point is that data is very important, but I think we also need to, and that was also what Paola said about the need of integrated approach. In our longitudinal survey, what was one result was that the owners that managed to renovate their home and so to sortir de la précarité énergétique, how would you say?
To go out from energy poverty.
Yeah. Were the owners that benefited from an integrated approach, so an approach, a technical approach, but also a social accompaniment. And I think that we need to deepen in our survey this part in order to enable the policies to take into account this social accompaniment and to finance, because there is a big issue about financing this social accompaniment. I don't know if I answered the question, but that was
yes. Yeah, no, clearly. Well, there were also some exchanges in the chat, and there was a good discussion, especially with our Spanish colleagues who I think are interested in maybe in developing an observatory there, and they were asking, okay, where to start from, or who should be the leading organization for that. So I don't know if one of you wants to. Based on your own experience, if one of you want to comment on that, so to say, maybe what was the main success factor for the observatory to be or the barometer or platform to be developed. I don't know, want to comment on that. Maybe Paola, if you want, or Sandrine, yes, please.
We started with a private initiative, this foundation, King Baudouin Foundation, but we are in discussion now with the authorities to give the tool to the authorities if they want. So related with the new directive, maybe it will be become public, but it's still in discussion. And the ideas that we started with the stakeholders that were that wanted to set up the platform, the barometers, and to work together within this platform. And then it's a tool, but left to the authorities if they want.
Yeah. If I may add,
yes,
just a few words about Italy. So, as I mentioned, we started as an independent observatory, as a network, and since June, finally, there is let's say, going on the institution of an institutional observatory. And we are very happy about this also because our network started exactly because there were no institutional observatory. So we are very happy to cooperate with this institutional observatory, and we really think that cooperation is a win-win strategy in this kind of in this field. So I think that we could have a different expertise with the institutional observatory, and also with all the other observatories also at the European level. So what is really relevant is to find a way to cooperate and to share the different investigation and the data, even trying to have some European database really useful for some European measurement, because we are really far from this. And so thank you very much.
Thanks, Paola. I think that's a relevant call. Also, yes, we have seen that the European Observatory was a bit transformed into an advisory hub. So now that's not their top priority to work on data and indicators. That's more to support municipalities in developing schemes. But as you say, there is still an interest at the least, and maybe a need to also to get more data sharing among countries and so on. So that's and even more with what was discussed in the first webinar. So the changes brought by the recast on the energy efficiency directive will surely also increase this need. I don't want. We can surely continue the discussion. I would have further questions, but I don't want to take more of your time. I know that everyone is very busy at this period of the year. So I thank again very much all our speakers. That I think that was a very useful contribution, especially having in mind what is under negotiations with the EEG recast. And I'm happy to see also from the chat that there are connections already made with other countries that either are interested in the social water analyzer or on developing observatories or so on. So that's good to see that it creates a good dynamic. And I wish you all the best for the Christmas season, and hopefully we see you on the 11th of January at our next webinar. And yes, that's it from my side. And if Adriana, you want to say a concluding word for the webinar, that's up to you. No, nothing. Okay, perfect. So maybe have a good lunch. Bon
Thank you.
appétit, everyone, and see you then
See
next
you.
year.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.